Middle-aged guy here. Here we are, desktop part 2. It's going to be a rainy day today, I think. It's a little bit windy, but we've taken this all the way down to 220. It's nice and smooth and pretty. When you do this with a 2x4 or 2x4, especially with the rough cut, don't worry about them being even, because we are going to epoxy it, and the first layer of epoxy is pretty much going to even everything out for us, and then the second layer, well, you'll see. Just hang in there. Trust the process. But we've done all the way down to 220 on the top, sides, and edges all the way around. The bottom, no need to. The bottom stayed at a 40. We did it at a 40, and it stayed at a 40. So that's all we need at the bottom anyways. From here, what we're going to start doing is a burning process. There she is. And we're not going to try to make it too dark. Okay, we're just gonna do enough to start getting the grain to darken up a little bit. Just touch it up a little bit with that, and then we're going to scrape all that off. But the next step is going to be the burning process, and I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done with that to show you what it looks like. And hang in there, middle-aged guy. I'll be back shortly. And now for the favorite part, my favorite part, the burning process. My tank, propane tank, little Harbor Freight weed killer thingy. Those weeds will die shortly after I finish this. Stay tuned. Middle-aged guy, desk build part 2. So as you can tell, I've got it assembled. I've already went ahead and stained it, and I've stained all the sides of it. The color that we chose is this one here. It's called a Royal Pine. It's kind of like a bluish green. It's really nice. I'm really happy the way it came out. Like I said, once you apply the stain, literally apply it and wipe it right off. I mean, it tells you no more than 2 minutes, no more than a few seconds. It gets dark really fast. After that, what we did was on the bottom side of it, I've applied 3 coats of what we used last time on our other desk with the same method, the water-based polyacrylic. And on the top, I'm on my second coat. I got one more coat to go. And all we're doing at this point is just sealing the wood, right? And it gets a little gloss to it, which is fine. Like I said, since this is a rustic desk, it's kind of a, think more Bonanza type build. We do have some of these gaps in here, and that is freckles. So what we're going to do with these is, since I'm going to put an epoxy on it, I'm going to have to put a backing on it and some sides before we do a pour on this. But there's going to be a few other things to do prior to that. So right now we are in part 2 of this build. I'm really happy with the way it came out. The third coat will be going on in about an hour, so it's an hour between each coat and a light sanding between each coat. So you apply the polyacrylic, lightly sand with like a 220 grit sanding block, which is what I've been using. Wipe it down to get the dust off of it, and apply the second coat nice and thin and evenly, and repeat. This will be 3 coats on each side, so this will be nice and sealed before we apply our epoxy cover. So far so good. We're coming out so good, looking pretty good so far. After we get this done, we'll apply the third coat and then start getting ready to, like I said, get that epoxy overlay on it before we go and assemble it in my office. So getting excited, and we're going to do a couple of things here and there to do the assembly, prior to the assembly, to kind of spruce this up and make it my own. Anyways, middle-aged guy, this is part 2 of the desk build. Part 3 is going to be the epoxy, so hang in there. I'll see y'all soon. So here's pretty much what we got for the desktop. Now the tint that I've used, or the stain that I've used, I've already explained in a previous section of this video. And as you can see, some of the things that we've done here is I took a router and I kind of rounded over the edges. The reason we want to do that is to keep these edges from splintering, because if they're... Alright, so here's the finished desktop. It's about 21 inches across, 5 feet long. This is the color. It's a kind of a greenish color. Like I said, I've explained the tint color we used in the previous video, which is a Royal Pine. One other thing I've done is it's got about 3 coats of the polyacrylic on it. And so it's really smooth. Even though you can still see the texture, it's real smooth. I also used a router and I rounded off the edges here and here. You can see them right there. And the reason I did that was to keep the wood from splintering. If you don't do that, what's going to happen anytime this bumps something, especially on the end grain here, it'll start to splinter. And you want to avoid all that. So by putting these rounded over edges on it, nothing fancy, it'll keep that from happening. So what we're going to do next is two things. I'm thinking about engraving with the router something here. And I'm working on that print right now. After that, as you can tell, like I said before, we got gaps here, which is fine. I'm going to flip this over to the bottom side, and I'm probably going to put either a clear sealant or a caulk on it to close off the gaps. And then I'm going to put some cardboard underneath it and hot glue it. And put a small edge of, or bevel on this with cardboard, some heavy moving cardboard. And then we're going to do the first layer of epoxy. The goal in that layer is to fill all these cracks in, right? And to seal it. And then we're going to do a light sanding, and I'm going to start placing, and at that point the engraving will already be done. So after that gets done, I'm going to do a light sanding, and then I'm going to start placing photographs and any other memorabilia from my life on here. And then we're going to do a top coat of clear epoxy again on top of that. Then we're going to go install it. That's the plan for now. In addition to my wife saying, hey, I like that color. Do the dresser, please. Yeah, well. So, with that being said, this is Middle Aged Guy signing out. And the next thing you'll be seeing is the engraving process and the clear coat. The engraving process and the epoxy, excuse me. So, hang in there. We'll be seeing you soon.